And when I wrote this draft, I wasn't really thinking very clearly. And my process of writing is, it's one of immediacy, I think, in which I feel as if it's the first time I write it, it's the most honest, it's the most pure, it's the most authentic. And I wanted to kind of capture that. But being a literature student, I couldn't help but, okay, this put on the editor hat and go like, okay, the poem is a little too staccato. It's a little too, for me, a word like piercing was a little too secondary school poetry, tone, right? So a lot of things was going through my mind when I finally read the draft and I wanted to edit the poem. Another thing to note about this first draft was I was very much influenced by how there was a trend, I think currently still a trend, or maybe not, in the 90s in American poetry, poets who were still alive then, where when you use words like A and B, when you repeat those words again in a poem, something must change. Something changes that sounds very simple, but it's also very profound. And this is what I like about the best poems, where the poem at first sounds very simple, but when you actually read it again, there's something weird going on that you didn't comprehend in the first place. And one of the ways of achieving that is to use very simple phrases like that, like this is that, and then this but that. And it was a trick that I learned from American poetry. They use other conjunctions as well, but the effect is the same, where you repeat certain ideas in a way that you go like, oh, okay, it's different. And for me, it was at the back of my mind when I finally changed this line, although with an irony, both beautiful and sad. I wanted to have that kind of development. If you read the next draft, the next draft says, with an irony that was beautiful but sad, beautiful and sad. I wanted that difference. So beautiful but sad. But sounds like there's something negative there. But beautiful and sad sounds like there's an acceptance of that negativity, which is part of the paradox of life, which is that the moment in life is both positive and negative, and not just a harping on the negative, which is what I think my earlier poems used to be about, in which I was always languishing in the despair, in the bleakness, in the negativity. And I didn't want to obviate this. I didn't want to repress it, because that would be very Singaporean, to repress the bad parts and like, oh, Singapore is happy, happy, happy. I wanted it to have a very clear, again, this sounds Buddhistic, and I didn't intend it. I didn't know it was Buddhistic at the time. I wanted a middle way. I wanted a way in which there is a balance of this paradox, in which, for me, at this moment in my life, what was good and what was bad is both the same thing, right? Which is why I changed the line eventually in my second draft. So the second draft goes like this. So I'm dead. I sang a song as a child, then woke up an adult to sing again, although with an irony that was beautiful but sad. Beautiful and sad. And I wanted it to be a very, very simple statement, beautiful and sad. However you want to read it, you cannot run away from this interpretation of it being a very balanced statement. It's beautiful and sad. Not one is more than the other. It's just the way it is. I wanted to convey that. And in a way, by conveying that, I wanted to tell this to myself as a human being, as a confessional poet. I wanted to tell myself, remind myself that, that's life. It's a kind of meditation on opposites, on dualistic thinking. It's a meditation that I enforce on myself through poetry. So I think you can see how poetry for me is so much a part of how I think, so much a part of who I am, that poetry teaches me to, view life with a new lens, with a new perspective. And as I was editing the poem even more, I wanted to make it a little more musical on the way it rolled off my tongue. And I still felt that it's still a little bit too staccato. And to give you some background about that, at this moment in my life as well, it was a time where even though I was a poet, I was also a classical singer. So my background is that, yeah, I love literature and all that, but one of my hobbies was opera singing, and I was very serious about it. You know, I was almost starving from, you know, spending my pocket money, you know, going to this one teacher from China to learn how to sing opera for 4 years, and I was really, really obsessed about it. So singing is a very, very huge part of my life. I still sing now, but it's not